Hi, I'm Chinwe. In this podcast, I am thrilled to bring you an incredible lineup of guests, ordinary women who have harnessed their struggles into powerful transformations. No matter your background or backstory, their experiences will resonate with you and will inspire you to let go of the limiting narratives shaped by your circumstance, upbringing, or past programming. We can all achieve greater freedom and happiness in our everyday lives, and my guests are here to tell you how. So, come on, let's dive into season 2 of Beyond 9 to 5. Hello and welcome to the show. Today, we have a remarkable guest who is your ordinary woman navigating the challenges of developing her business, but doing so with extraordinary resilience and courage. I'm delighted to have her on the show today because I think her ability to channel her experiences, the good, the bad, and everything in between, into successfully setting up and growing her health business is inspirational. So, it is with great pleasure that I welcome Kechi Oribabor.
Thank you.
Was that an appropriate introduction?
That was beautiful.
Right? Yeah?
Yes.
Because I think your journey is truly inspirational. But let's go pedal back a little bit. Let's talk about your background. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? And lead me up to the point of your adulthood. Yeah?
Okay.
So let's talk about your childhood a little bit.
It's a bit back and forth. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria. Then I came over to the UK lots of times as a young child for lots of operations. And this is because I was born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate. So over the course of my childhood years, I was often in the UK. And there was even a moment where I was in the UK for about 3-4 years, for quite a period of time before I went back to Lagos. And then finally, I moved over for good when I was around 15.
Okay.
Did the usual A-levels, went into uni and took it from there. So it's been quite some time. And yeah, at this moment, I still see myself as Nigerian, British, but you know how British can navigate those kind of groups where sometimes you're with Nigerians and you don't quite come across as being Nigerian, and then when you're British, you don't quite come across as being British. So you're like in between, like Nigerian, British is how I get to identify as now.
I'm a citizen of the world, I often say.
I like
right?
that.
Yeah.
I like
so,
that.
honestly, because I think anywhere can be your home.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Exactly.
And it's interesting, you said you came back and forth, for surgery.
Yes.
What was that like as a child coming into a country where most people came on holiday, but instead you came in for health treatments?
I think at that point, I came off getting up to the point where I was 7. That's traditionally, and I understand that's still the case where you have certain operations until when you're around 7. And I think I was quite young. I mean, yes, it was more like, it was also a holiday, to be fair. It wasn't just coming in for treatment. So I did look forward to it. And I don't think I had any misgivings about that. I just thought, okay, we're coming away again on holiday, and I just went along with the flow.
Yes,
So it was overall it was a good experience, and it gave me an early outlook on living in different countries.
Places, yes.
From quite a young age as well, until I decided to finally settle down when I was around 15 in the UK.
I think it's really important because, part of the reasons why I asked you that specific question was I was hoping we'll bring out the certain elements about when we go out to seek out healthcare abroad, or whether you're in the UK or going elsewhere, the experiences, especially for children, need not be can be made bearable. It can be made. It can be made almost pleasant. And and although it would have been tough for you as a child coming in that way, but it sounds like your parents perhaps made it it
was positive
for you, isn't it?
It was positive, and to be fair and quite balanced. I do recall seeing some specialists in Nigeria as well as in the UK, and all round, it was a good experience.
Good.
Either way. So, I haven't really had any outlook on that. And again, I was quite young.
Quite young, isn't it?
I don't remember as much.
And so you came over to the UK in your early teens, it sounds like, to do your A-levels and all of that. And then what happened after A-levels? Sounds like that's I should know. My daughter has just done her A-levels in uni. So you do your A-levels and then you're looking to go into university,
That's
isn't it?
correct.
Right.
Yeah,
And how did
yeah.
what was the transition like in that time?
Now that was interesting. There was definitely a transition there because I remember trying to navigate around the educational system in the UK compared to where I was coming out from. And some people might relate to this where when you're leaving Nigeria at a certain age, you do certain British exams to make you more adaptable. So did those exams, passed those exams, but when I moved over to the UK, it was a completely different learning style, totally different learning style. Some might say maybe a little bit more relaxed initially and more, whereas I've been used to just getting in as much as you can. Exactly. But more, and I learned moving to the UK at that point, it was more about really understanding and really comprehending your style. Maybe at a slower pace, but still getting the best results out of that. It was quite a change. But I'm still quite happy about that change because it's really shaped a lot of the way I see things today. And I have noticed even from that junction that I'm often the one that has a different perspective in a room full of people about certain issues. I'm often the outlier as a result of that. So I think it's from that moment that my differential views started coming into place to speak of.
Yeah. And you wanted to go into university then to I think you told me before, to study medicine?
I did. But it was also at the time when IT as well was going through this boom and everyone was going through IT. And I really found myself conflicted. And, being of a Nigerian upbringing, there's typically like 3 professions, right? Medicine, law, and engineering. Right? That's it.
If you're none of those two, then your parents are like, what do we send you to school for then?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about when you do art? Art? What's going to pay the bills? So, it was a really, really hard time for me because I wanted to go in that direction of IT. I could see that growing and taking off, but I also wanted to help people. And there had always been this drive within me, maybe because of my upbringing and dealing with a lot of visits in the hospital. I grew up wanting to help people in similar situations as well. So I was looking into ways to bring these 2 separate interests together. And I remember speaking to my university or college counselor at the time, and she was like, well, you could just look at something that does a bit of both, And we started looking at professions, IT, medicine, and audiology came into place because there was speak of working with a lot of technology. And helping people. And so I found myself.
That's your balance there. Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Thank you.
And you are you clearly have a passion for this because it wasn't just meshing 2 different subjects together, if I can call it that. It feels like the bottom line was helping people.
Absolutely.
In an effective way through tech, I guess, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Would you conclude therefore that you are passionate about this and there is a purposefulness about your career now, isn't it? How do you know something is your purpose? What's your interpretation of that? Because I've asked a lot of my guests this question, right? How do you know something is your purpose as opposed to, I don't know, pre-programmed or... Okay, let me just rewind that a little bit. What's purpose to you? What do you think that means?
I think when I hear purpose, I think it's something that you feel you have been put on this world to do. Something that you feel was almost made for you to do. And in essence, doing anything else apart from that would never be the right fit. And whilst you're in that space of your purpose, you feel you belong, you feel you're doing the right thing. And there is that resonance, if that makes sense. And I find that with what I currently do in audiology because I've enjoyed it. And over the years, I've had lots of chances to move into other spheres of interests or occupations. But I've always found myself coming back. And especially when I've worked in the past, and we'll probably talk about this as we go on. I've worked for big organizations like the NHS, and I've worked for big private corporations as well, where I've been able to work my way up. But I found as I've worked my way up into managerial positions, which is a good aspiration to have for some, I found myself moving further and further away from what I truly enjoy. And that brings us back to purpose. You know, I miss being in clinic. Maybe I'll have one day in clinic and the other days are doing managerial work. And I look forward to being back in clinic, which is why I started out in this venture in the first place.
So you started your private practice, right? Tell me a little bit about that. Because when you're in the NHS, right, there is no coaching around how to start your own private practice, is it? What were the very beginnings like? When the idea came to you, who did you turn to? What did you turn to?
Thank you for asking that. I think I'll give most of this inspiration to my dad. He's always encouraged me to be the best that I can be in whatever I wanted to do. And even when I said to him I didn't want to do medicine, he said, okay, look, as long as you are happy doing what you have chosen to do, that's good enough for me. So I said to him, you know, I'm not really sure if this is something I wanted to go into. And he said, okay, he's an economist. And he said, okay, why don't you go do some business? Learn about some business. So he encouraged me to do an MBA, and it was a completely different ball game. Oh my God, my eyes were open in ways I had not fathomed, because I had always been in this specialist niche clinical, realm of doing things. And now I'm looking at things from an organizational perspective and understanding why businesses make their decisions. And I was in awe of that way of thinking, which again led me to go into a private venture, working with a big corporation to understand how it worked. So when I felt I was competent enough, and I found myself in a situation where I was actually now training and teaching other audiologists, and I had a team of about 30 audiologists that I was in charge of. I just go, okay, I think
got this, girl.
Yeah, I think I can do this now. I think I can, take that step. And it's not always been easy, because I'll be honest with you, I think I had a very slow start. I was not very quick to build up that confidence. I was not very quick to have the mindset that I could do things, And this comes from having a background, say, as, obviously being a woman, being Black, but that doesn't stop there with me. For me, it's having this scar on my face, which I initially, as a youth or teenager, I used to feel people judge me for, or even the way I spoke, the way I said certain words. I felt that I would always be, misjudged or underestimated. So I think that drove that internal locus of control within me, that I am the one who's in charge of my destiny. I am the one who is responsible for taking myself where I want to go. And then further on from that, I went on to have a daughter. And guess what? They said to me when I was pregnant with her, oh, the chances of her having the same thing is very low. It's less than 3%. And guess what happened? I should have played the lottery, because she got it as well. Really? And she got a unilateral microphone. And when we got the news, it was quite devastating, but it renewed my purpose as well. And I thought, okay, now this is another driver for me. I've got to be the best I can be. I've got to show her that there is nothing she can't stop herself from doing. She can't limit herself. So I've had different drivers as I've come along that have come together and eventually made me think, right, let's make that change, let's make that jump, and let's see where it takes us.
It's interesting how our children are sometimes the nidus, the reason that extra fire we need, isn't it? To push past our own limit. Because a lot of times, even if you can't do it for yourself, as soon as they come along, you find this renewed switch, this energy.
Yeah, exactly. We have a lot to thank them for that. They can really push us towards things that we naturally wouldn't have thought we would do by ourselves if we were left to do it by ourselves.
Yeah. Starting the business sounds like it wasn't just you rolled out of bed one morning and said, I'm going to do it. It's about, first of all, consulting. And we're lucky sometimes when we have people in our lives who can mentor us, who can support us, and then drawing inspiration from people around you. So that's one, you drew inspiration from people, and then you planned. You didn't just go, I'm going to do it. You knew you had a bit of learning to do and pluck the courage. So doing an MBA wouldn't have been easy either, because people say, you talk about MBA as if you just rolled in and plucked it from the supermarket.
No, it was quite intense. I was working full time as well.
Yes.
And again, I just met people from other various, realms of life, from specialties. And I drew a lot of inspiration and get drive from that, and I was meeting people who just felt that life was limitless, whereas having worked in certain organizations where you're in a box, I don't mean to say that in itself is a bad thing. You do learn from that.
Yeah.
And I think it's only very, very few people who can make that jump straight out of school and successfully
transition to entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I know we have the stories of the Google entrepreneurs and so on, so forth, but majority of us, I feel, need to take that step.
Yeah. And it's okay to take that step.
It is okay.
It's okay to kind of find a space to ruminate and to grow and to let your confidence and everything else you need come through before attempting to be an entrepreneur. It's also okay to give that service, so working in the NHS, it feels a little bit like, other than the training we got, which is brilliant, but it's a service to the country in a way, right?
Is.
And I think that in itself is an achievement.
It is.
So when you decide to evolve from that, looking back, and I'm saying this because a lot of people watching this might be thinking, I work 9 to 5. Oh my God, this is all.
No.
But I think that's important that you can
learn from
be.
that.
Yes,
you can
be of service
from that.
Yes,
and like you said, yes, working within the NHS, depending on your mindset, it can be a privilege in the sense that if you are passionate about what you're doing, you're making a difference in people's lives, then you can just rule out all the white noise. I know there's a lot of, bad news. A lot of people are not very happy or very content with the NHS in different professions. But you need to tap back into yourself and think, okay, why am I doing this? Why did I end up here?
That's right.
Why did I apply for this job? And hone into that and derive your joy and your pleasure from helping people, from having those one-to-one connections and conversations with the patients that you're making a difference in their lives for. And that is going to keep you going. I guess that certainly kept me going the last 10 years I was in the NHS. It must have worked.
It works. And, I no longer work in the NHS now, but I am so proud of that time. I'm grateful for it. I always say this: if you want to work in the health industry, it's the best place to train and to learn and to provide high-level service. We take it for granted, right? But people travel from across the world to come here to see, the doctors and nurses and, specialists that we often take for granted here, so to speak. Don't limit yourself. It's one thing that you've just said while you were talking, right? When you've had moments that you felt that limitation pulling you back, right? What do you say to yourself? Do you talk? Do you have any tools to try and help yourself through those moments? Which I'm sure probably still happens now, isn't it? So as a business owner, you will face challenges. So do you have a mantra? Do you have a go-to person to call? What do you do?
I think it's human to have days where you have to work that much harder to remind yourself about why you're doing what you do. I think having your own tribe of people, finding a group of people who are in similar situations really helps. Yeah. But for me, that I tap into my tribe.
Tribe,
guys,
yes.
How am I the only one? Survive. I'm not the only one here going through this, and and having those kind of unions definitely helps a lot. It's quite reassuring and it's quite validating in a sense. There are other things you can do as well, just to try and keep myself in the best possible shape that I can be. And I think this is why that book as well that I spoke about earlier really resonates with me, because when you eat the right things, it affects your mental health, it affects your emotional health, it affects your physical health. So you need to have the stamina. You definitely need the stamina as an entrepreneur to keep going. You definitely need blind optimism.
Yeah.
When everyone is like, I don't think this is going to work.
You have to be stubborn somehow.
You have to be really stubborn.
Yes.
And where most people just think this is not happening, you have to be that one person that says yes, I can make this work. Exercise, I think, is a big thing in terms of keeping that positivity and mental health. And I'm not even talking about just doing like a crazy, I don't know, HIIT, workout where you pass out on the floor, high intensity interval, exercises. We've all been there. We've done that. After a while, a certain time, a certain age, you're like, I need to go a bit easier on the joints.
Just a long walk will do.
Perfect. Exactly. We are there. I'm getting you. I'm totally getting you. That's it. It does good. It does the job.
It does the job.
It does the job. You come back, there's endorphins are going, and you just feel like you can do anything, and that's when you just tap into that and get what you need to do going.
Yeah. People often underestimate the physicality of running a business, right? And if you're not feeling well in yourself, if you're not nourished, if you're not feeling strong, if you're not sleeping well.
Yes. Oh my God. Sleep hygiene. That is key. I mean, if you can't be in your best physical shape, how can you run a business?
Yeah.
So it's really
That's
important.
a really important take home, guys, isn't it? Because, your physical health is so important. And what about in terms of your spiritual value? Are you Christian?
I am Christian, but at this moment, I'm not devout. I do believe in morality. I do believe in doing the right thing. And I think that there is a reason why it's a lot easier to show kindness to people, and as long as you are kind to people around you, then I think the universe will look more favorably on you in that respect. And, it puts you in a happier place as well.
Yeah. Do you have moments in your practice where you find that people need that extra layer of kindness? Right? Because they come to you with, hearing difficulties, isn't it?
Yes, they do. Yes.
Do you have moments like that where you've translated what you've just said to me towards them?
Yes, I mean, what I do is quite difficult in the sense that people need it. They need help with their hearing, but most people don't want the kind of help that we deliver. Right. In fact, there's been some statistics that have shown over the years that when people find out that they have a hearing loss, it can take them up to 5 years to take action from the point at which they find out. So they choose to take the news in, but they refuse to take action at that point.
Is it like a denial thing? Like it's just, because it's hard, isn't it? To accept. So there's that process of sort of grieving and turning over and denial. And you've lost a part of yourself. Yes. But we need to change our mindset around that, and we need to embrace the help that's available for that. That we can actually help ourselves. We can come out of that situation now. I mean, we're talking about certain people saying, my grandmother never get to wear this, my great-grandfather never get to wear this. But in the same vein, you hear about people who were ostracized, they were put in the corner of the room because they thought they were not mentally capable, or they were losing their marbles. They were not losing their marbles, they just couldn't hear. And then there's even in the younger population as well, there's lots of earnings, being confident as well in yourself, how you speak. Have you heard what your boss has said? When you have those unions with your colleagues, do you catch all the side comments, all the side jokes? Or do you just nod happily along and hope that you're not in the right place and you're not saying yes when you should say no and so on? So all these things definitely play a part. To answer your question directly, I do find that, yes, there are times when I have to show extra kindness when I'm dealing with clients or patients who are in denial. It's really, really hard. And sometimes they come in with family. You can say the family are feeling the effects of that loss, but they don't. They feel that the family are the ones that have the problem. And not them. And that can be really, really hard to deal with because you're looking for different ways because people are so different and you have to keep trying to find different ways to show to them that, look, this is what you're giving to your family. This is the effect it's having on you now. And this is the effect that it may have on you in future if you do not take action now. Ladies, pause for a moment and imagine this. A circle of women, strong, talented, wise and powerful, all in one place, ready to support you through tough times and to celebrate the good ones too. Picture a safe space where you can truly be yourself. A sisterhood that lifts you up, empowers you, and where we can share invaluable experiences with each other. Now, what if I can tell you that circle is right in your hands? Introducing Health Mary app. Health, well-being and lifestyle solutions for women by women. All you have to do is download the app. It's free and it's all the girl power you need. Your clinic is based in Rochester. I want to say Rochester in Kent, isn't it?
Right,
yeah. Yes. And so what's the easiest way? How do people tend to find you? Do they go, because it sounds like a lot of people might not necessarily go I have a hearing loss and Google that and then find you, what's the most common route
to find my practice?
To find your practice? How do they land in your clinic? Is it usually because someone else has brought them?
Yes,
or
that's a really good question. I think it often starts with maybe, funny enough, it's the spouses.
The spouses. Boy, you can't hear no more. Let's get your ears checked.
Exactly. The spouses or it's the parents who are concerned about their children. Maybe they're not developing speech at the expected rate, or their performance at school as well as not as expected. Is that what you meant by finding the practice? About finding,
that's exactly what I'm asking. How do people, because I often think that as business owners, right, we think about how people search and find us. But we kind of need to go a little bit further back, I think, sometimes to think about what triggers them to search and find us, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that interplay is important, because if a lot of children come to you through their parents because parents have triggered, then I'm sure you would agree that some education and conversation to parents in general will be the best place to target any sort of education and public health advice, isn't it?
It is.
And same for spouses, isn't it? So if it's mainly the wives bringing in the husbands,
or
vice versa, then the conversation is different. And so if people found you, do you offer any online consultations or?
Yes, I do. If you wanted to initially just have a conversation about where to take things, I do offer remote services, and you can book in on that on my website.
Yes. I'll leave the link in the description, guys. Yeah.
Thank you. And we can take it from there.
Yeah.
Because I think for most people, it's really hard just making the first step, especially around the period at which we're having this interview. You know, people are making resolutions, and it's like, okay, I'm going to do this now. And it's like, it shouldn't be a case of I'm going to do this now and then it gets pushed back. You do it now and take action. Start off the way you intended to begin.
Yeah. Is it possible that some people may have hearing difficulties and not know it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we find that this is very often with people who live alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very often with people who live alone, because there's nobody else around them to bring it to their attention. And it depends again on the type of hearing loss. If it's a progressive hearing loss, it's very, very slow. It's almost like trying to watch your hair grow. That's what I say to patients. You don't really notice that it's changing until one day you look in the mirror, or one day you have this particular event that makes you realize that you are missing out a lot than you should. But when you live by yourself, you need to just look out for little things, like if you're watching the television, is it gradually creeping up? Do you
find the volume? Are you having to turn it up really high?
I think that's the easiest one that most people can relate to. But the other one, which is a bit more subtle, is your tolerance for noisy places, your tolerance for restaurants. Really? If you find that your tolerance is actually getting, lower and lower, you find you're actively avoiding these places, you need to find out why. Why do you not want to be in a noisy restaurant? Is it just because the music is loud, or is it because of the mental exertion that you're going through?
Because you're straining, isn't it? A lot. Because there's two different kinds of hearing issues, isn't it? There could be hyperacusis. There could be like being overly sensitive to noise, and then there's being under hearing loss and being undersensitive to noise.
Yes, absolutely. And it can get a bit more complicated because hyperacusis, which is insensitivity to loud noises that other people would tolerate. And then we've got recruitment, which happens underneath the hearing loss, and this is as a result of a reduced dynamic range. So basically, because you've had this hearing loss for as long as you've had it, you've gotten used to that quiet bubble if you speak of. And then when you are presented with that loud noise, because you're so used to it, is a shock to the auditory system. Sometimes it gets even more complicated when somebody has both. But I would say, again, look out for the issues with how you cope with background noise. It could be a conversation with 2 or 3 people. How well can you keep abreast of the conversation? Or if you're in a restaurant and you find that you are probably not tolerating the background noise as much as others around you, that is a good sign to have your hearing checked.
I have looked at your website and on all of that and done a bit of research, and a hearing check is pretty, I think, affordable and accessible. Would you recommend that routinely for most people? Yeah, because we kind of assume that we all can hear properly, isn't it?
Yes.
But do you think that should be part of your MOT?
That's a very good question. I think it should be, but again, I think, yes, the focus should be more on certain groups, but at the same time, it does exclude a certain demographic, and we've learned this over the years. So, for example, there's a certain group of people that are born with hearing losses, which is congenital, and they often present with what we call a cookie bite loss. And they usually become aware of this at a later stage in their life. And when we break the news to them and we say, this is just what I've always done. No one's actually ever told me about this. So it does make you wonder, okay, if you had been coming routinely at an earlier stage, would we have found out and been able to intervene at an earlier stage? But to answer your question, I think it's a good idea to have it checked if you find you are certainly predisposed to certain conditions in your family, if you know you work in certain environments where there's a lot of noise exposure. But I think by legislation alone, health and safety law actually imposes that rule on employers to ensure that their employees are having their annual checks. But if you're self-employed, you may not have that luxury, so you need to arrange that for yourself. If you're a young person as well, especially these days where we're using personal listening devices a lot more, I think it's a good idea to start from somewhere and have a baseline.
Got your earphones in their ears all the time. I do worry about that sometimes, where even at home, my kids, they have it on one ear. Because they know I keep saying, well, can you hear me? Can you hear me? So they literally have it in their ears all the time. Is that safe to do? Is that okay if should I just make them not have it on at all the time? I'll tell them it's your fault if I go on with it, mind you. So earbuds, for instance, is that okay?
Usually, most proprietary earbuds have a warning that comes up on your device when you have gone past the recommended levels. So as long as you stay underneath that, I think that's safe to do. And then on the flip side, where I know you're concerned about maybe wearing earbuds for a lengthy period of time and being predisposed to noise-induced loss, we also need to look at our daily tolerance as well of ambient noise around us, because nowadays we get a lot of devices with active noise cancellation, and it's great to use it time and again, but you can't use that 24/7. You're not living in the reality as it is, and you need to expose yourself to all the cacophony of noises around you as nature would present it. You need to keep that part of your brain as well continually stimulated.
I was just going to say that, isn't it? Because your brain needs all those networks to be fed and all of that.
Exactly. So we need to be wary about that on that grounding as well. So for the kids, I'll let you take this together.
What has been a challenge for you literally physically setting up a space to run your clinic? Have you had any specific challenges around that? I'm sure there would be.
There are challenges. I think there are challenges every day. I think the challenge is now the balance. Is the continual balance. Is the balance of keeping everything that really matters going and at the same time keeping the business going. And you find that quite often it's always keeping in one direction, isn't it? And then you need to be able to identify, okay, right, I haven't spent this much time at home because I've been at work, so I need to make up for that. But whilst you're spending that time at home and catching up, the emails are piling up.
Yes.
So that has definitely been a challenge, and I think it will always be a challenge, but we do learn from that and we do grow with that, and I'm sure as time goes on and I become a lot more experienced, we'll learn to put the right helpers or pointers in place to deal with those challenges. So maybe at home it could be things like maybe outsourcing more and not feeling like I can do everything and cook all those meals and delegating.
It's so important. I was quite pleased when you said that at a point in your life where you were trying to make a tough decision, you turned to your dad, who clearly gave you really good sound advice and in a way encouraged and empowered you to sort of move forward. Today, in the world today, there is a lot of talk about female empowerment and driving us forward. In your opinion, where do men come in to help push that forward. Do you have sons or?
Yeah, I have. I do.
And not that you wouldn't have been able to answer this question if you didn't have a son, but my point is, where do men come in to help us in advancing female empowerment?
I think it's about offering support where it's needed, and I'm very grateful for the support I've had, and not only from my father but also from my other half as well as the inspiration I've gotten from my son as well. I think in terms of where men come into play, I think it's just giving us the support and the belief that we can achieve what we set out to believe. I've never really looked at things from that angle because I've never really seen it as a men can do this. I just think we can all do it.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly the point. I was trying to bring across, because we run this risk of pursuing feminine or femininity and leaving the men out of the conversation, and in a way making it look as if there is these two different species, and you sort yourselves and also. But there is a role there for the men in our lives to play a part in advancing our goals and things without losing anything. If anything, they gain from that. I also, by the way, think that we women should be open to that, right, and not be tempted to kind of slide. I can, like. Oh
no, I think you should be open to getting help. I think you should. You need to be able to recognize that you can't. No one is a solitary island. You need people around you to help you in different ways, to inspire you, drive you, motivate you, and people you can also learn from as well. So in that respect, I think you can garner what you choose from everybody around you, irrespective of what sex they are or what. As long as their principles align with yours, of course.
That's right. Yeah, totally. Introducing Health Mary app. Health, well-being and lifestyle solutions for women by women. Download the app. It's free and it's all the girl power you need. Do you read books usually? Or are you a bit like me? I'm touch and go. Sometimes I'm reading quite a lot, and other times I haven't. I think there must have been like 2 or 3 years where I literally couldn't and didn't pick up a book. And then I suddenly switched on. I'm like, I'm going to read everything I see. But have you read anything recently?
Oh gosh, I'm a bit like you, I have to say.
Touch and go, right?
Touch and go. And my problem is I want to read everything. Yes. I want to read everything, but there's not enough time. Yeah. There isn't enough time. And
I discovered audiobooks though. So
I love audiobooks.
I listen when I commute.
I love audiobooks, and it's been a way for me to even tap into this book I was sharing with you about. But maybe on a lighter note. A really good one I read, which was like a nice, easy read and quite funny by, I think it's Oyikon Breakaway. My sister is a serial killer.
Oh, hi.
Have you read that one?
No, I haven't read that one.
It's genius. It's hilarious. Even the name as well kind of sticks, right? Yeah. So that was a really, really funny one. And yes, easy breezy read if you're on holiday or you just want to get out of the whole work reading, the technical reading, the hard stuff.
And the one you told me about just before we got on air was the ultra processed foods. Tell me about that. That's a really interesting title. Tell me a bit more about it.
So that's a really good one because I talked about earlier how important it is to try and be your best self every day, and how important it is for the things that we eat and how it influences everything that we do. Yes, there is mindset, but if you don't have a positive mindset, yes, you can have a positive mindset drawn from people. Yeah. But I also believe that what you eat as well can also affect your mindset.
Yeah. You are what you eat.
You are what you eat, exactly.
That's so true.
Exactly. Oh my God, there's certain things that you might not realize that make you feel very demotivated and grumpy and, just not wanting to do much. And then there are certain things that make you feel like you feel your best self. So that book, Ultra Processed Foods, I loved it because he was highlighting the different things that we may overlook in the foods that we eat today, and basically just encouraging us to look into having one name ingredient foods as much as possible. And, you basically, from that book, you want to use something that you can easily find in your kitchen. If you're finding like a very long list of ingredients, that you
and when the ingredients come in letters and numbers, right?
Yes,
E8 to 29-247
That is not
kind
a
of
good
thing.
sign. That is not a good sign.
No.
And I think now as well, there's been a lot of, researching, talk about the gut-brain axis.
Yes.
That comes into play as well. You think, okay, you know what, I've noticed when I eat certain things. So for myself, I'm lactose intolerant. And I think majority of us are.
Yeah, a lot of people. It's quite common.
It's very, very common. So when I go past what I should have, okay, I can't resist that jar of Ben and Jerry's. Sometimes you just
gotta have some ice cream.
You just gotta live a bit. You gotta live a little bit. But when I have that in excess, you just feel a bit dreary.
Yeah.
But then if you have something else to balance that, have some fruit, have some protein, you feel your best. So in his book, I think he was really brave, and I think this resonates with me because he decided to go past what was being presented to us and go to other countries to find out how they were tackling this problem. And there's a particular part of the book, I believe, please forgive me, I think it was Argentina or Brazil, where they found out that the people there were eating non-processed foods, they were very healthy, living well, and then suddenly they were starting to get certain processed foods in, and then there was an increase in the incidence of diabetes and gout. Yeah. So what became quite alarming was the number of amputations that were happening as a result of gout. So the researchers there started looking further into this, asking, why is this happening? How can we trace this back? And he came back again to
the processed
foods. And they tried to boycott it, but they were met against, the big 4 or 5 corporations that run foods. It's a bit like a mafia. And, and he himself, he felt he wanted to get involved. And I admired his bravery and passion for going against the grain and still wanting. It's not even his country.
It's not his country. I was just going to say,
but he still wanted to get involved in trying to help these people. So that book resonated with me in more ways than one because it wasn't purely educational. It was inspiring.
Inspirational. So, people just becoming the change they want to see and being part of the solution. Really being part of the solution.
That is hard.
Talking the talk and walking the walk.
It's
not the same thing,
not the
isn't
same
it?
thing.
So that's incredible. I would definitely read that book because it sounds like it goes beyond just advice about what to eat. It's also about advice about life and how to approach something that you're passionate about.
Highly recommended.
Do you have any advice for any young woman out there who is looking to take a step towards entrepreneurship? I know these young women could be anything from 16 to 69. But do you think that is there any word of advice you'd give people listening? Sorry, I don't mean to put you on.
No, I don't. No, I love that question, and I think I was trying to bring it all in because I was looking at it from different angles. So, for example, what concerns me now is we are living in the digital age, which is great. It's got its advantages in terms of social media, but this focus again on aesthetics and how we look. You do find a lot of young people are influenced by that. And they are doing certain things to change their appearances or because they feel they can't advance or they don't have that confidence. And I need to say, coming from as somebody who's literally carried a scar on her face all her life, sometimes it's really not about how you look. Yes, it plays a part, but it's what you can do. Yeah. So you need to be confident in yourself and your abilities. It's not always how pretty you are or, what people think about what you look. If you make that impact, then people will look past that.
That's right.
And you will derive joy in the fact that you've done what you set out to do. So I'm going to say this, don't limit yourself. If you feel you can grow, if you feel you're capable, you are capable.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Go for it. Amen to that.
Amen, sister.
Totally. I get it.
Preach.
I know, preach. And I hope listeners, our audience, we've got a lot of views on this one because I think it's so valuable what we've just discussed today. Kechi, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming in. It's been so joyful talking to you. Where's the time gone?
Absolute pleasure.
I know.
Thank you so much for having me.
Guys, if you've not heard anything today, just go away with this. First of all, if you or anybody you know is worried about your hearing, it does make a big difference when it's sorted. It can affect your well-being and your confidence and all of that. It's easy to find and access help. And I'm going to leave Kechi's details in the description below. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And but very, very quickly before we go, I'm going to ask Kechi to have a listen, and it's going to be an agree or not agree, right, to what the last guest wrote here for you. They said, take every road offered to you, as you'll never know where you will end up.
Agree.
Yes. The road uncharted is the one that, could sometimes would have been your it's road, yeah. For me, I think this is it looks straightforward, right? And it looks very simple, but
it's multi-layered.
It's very layered, isn't it? Right? Because every road you take does require you to walk, to work, and to walk, isn't it?
Yes.
And to experience. Sometimes you trip and fall. Right.
Just get up again.
But you just get up again and open another door and find another way, right?
Keep going.
The only thing worse than falling is not moving at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for listening, and please subscribe, like, share, follow. I will leave all of the contact details in the description below. If you subscribe and share, I am able to bring more inspirational women like Kechi to the microphone, so that they can continue to share their journeys and their experiences, which I am sure will continue to inspire you as well. Whatever your purpose is, keep fueling it with your passion. You've got this. You've got this, girl. Okay. Next time.
Hey.
Coming up next week on Beyond 9 to 5.
We wear 20% of our wardrobe 80% of the time, which is mad. And then
So
we say
like
to ladies,
20% of our wardrobe, 80% of the time.
yeah, so we're wearing just 20% of our wardrobe
That's right.
all the time. Someone said to me that I didn't believe in the products that I was selling. And I kept saying, no, I do. And they were going, no, you don't. I said, yes, I do. Well, you obviously don't. I said, I do. I just don't believe in myself. And it just came out of me.
Oh my.
Bits, and I do this, especially in a style analysis, because we're looking at body shape and scale. And they'll come in and they'll say, oh, I don't like this. I don't like my tummy, And I say, look at your chest. Look at those fabulous boobies. Look at that bottom, We've got two different types of women, as you know.
Yeah.
Some women love their bum. They own that bum, And I look for the good parts. Yeah. And as a stylist, that's definitely something in a style analysis I'm doing. Even if you never had your style done, especially if you're going through a time in your life where you need positive energy, colour analysis can really bring that to you. So even if one of your best colours, your most favourite colours, your wow colour was a neutral or something soft and not as bright and bold as what I'm wearing, if you put that on and it energises you and it lifts you, same with the weight loss journey, we go through those negative moments. What can you do to help give you a little bit of a push?
Yeah.
Put something on that makes you feel incredible.
Yeah. Just getting one more person to lift herself up to be a better version of herself.
Definitely.
And then she can go ahead and show up in her family, in her community, at work.
Definitely.
Imagine. So I think you're making such a huge impact with it.